My name is Sarah Gellis, and my major is Law, Jurisprudence, and Social Thought. The title of my thesis is A More Equal Constitution, Proposed Revisions to the United States Constitution. The project kind of started with me just wanting to reconsider the U.S. Constitution, because a lot of the more recent democratic constitutions look very different than our Constitution. And kind of as I did more reading and talking with my advisor, the eventual argument I make is, or that I came to, was that the Constitution as it is currently constituted is inconsistent, internally inconsistent. And when the Constitutional Convention first happened, kind of the primary goal of the Constitution was to promote the principle of liberty. But starting with the 14th Amendment, that kind of started to shift towards equality, and the amendments that followed that gave African Americans the right to vote and women the right to vote, and eliminated the poll tax, for example, and instituted the direct election of senators, and all of these things, they all, I argue, demonstrate a commitment to what I termed participatory equality. And so I basically then said that a lot of what came before the 14th Amendment was not consistent with that goal of participatory equality, which I defined as including both, access to vote and participate in government that way, but also access to serve in government. I basically argued that the way the Supreme Court interprets the 14th Amendment today, which is as like a promise of what they call formal equality, or what some scholars term the anti-discrimination principle, is not actually consistent with the goal of participatory equality, because it doesn't take into account the kind of reality and society, and the fact that just taking out discriminatory laws doesn't actually get us to equality. So that was kind of the last proposal I made, was revising the 14th Amendment itself and adding an extra clause that ensured that the 14th Amendment would be interpreted in a way that was consistent with participatory equality. The first proposal I made that is pretty controversial is to eliminate the current setup of the United States Senate. So right now the Senate is organized as every state has 2 representatives regardless of their population. And I argued that pretty clearly violates participatory equality, in the sense that, if you live on right across the border in California, your vote is worth a lot less than the vote of your neighbor in Nevada. Or Wyoming or whatever, and it's actually a ratio of 70-1 in California to Wyoming. I set up the Senate as, it's similar to the way the House is organized, in the sense that it's population-based, but it's still smaller, and the senators still have 6-year terms instead of the 2-year terms that House representatives in the House have. The second controversial proposal was instituting a mandatory system of public financing for all federal offices, because what a lot of people don't realize is that right now, to run for Senate or the House or anything, it takes millions and millions of dollars. And the way I kind of approached or ended up there was I looked at the organization or the composition of Congress, and started just asking myself why it's only 17% female, or there's only 1 black senator. And I tried to look at what structural reasons there might be for that, and it was pretty clearly money. And I mean that affects not just racial minorities or women, that affects everyone who's not rich enough to fund a $1 million campaign themselves. And that's compounded by the problem of incumbency, and challengers need even more money to challenge or to be competitive in these races. So by instituting a system of public financing with no private contributions allowed, that to me makes, that's participatory equality in the sense that everyone now has access to run for government. And the last big one was the Supreme Court, and I proposed one 18-year term for all justices, to deal with the fact right now that there's a lot of politically motivated retirements, and also just the fact that it's completely random how many justices presidents get to appoint. So you have like, Nixon appointing 4 and Carter appointing 0, even though they serve the same amount of time or whatever. And so my proposal, every term expires, or a term will expire every 2 years, and so every president appoints the same number of justices. And that's just also a way of kind of equalizing the voice that citizens have in government. It's an entire branch of government, the Supreme Court, and right now it's intended to be isolated from our democracy, but I think it's gotten to the extent where it's too isolated. I actually had a surprisingly good experience. To me, it was like an opportunity to pick a topic that I was entirely interested in and read any book I wanted and work on it whenever I wanted. It was kind of just like I'd always had these research papers at the end of semesters, and I'd want to pick a gigantic topic and only had 2 weeks to work on it, so I had to narrow it down, but this time I could pick a gigantic topic and spend time on it. I'm going to be interning in the Labor Relations Department of Major League Baseball's Commissioner's Office. I grew up a fan of baseball, obviously, and somewhere around high school it kind of transitioned into more of an intellectual interest, and in terms of the statistics and just the kind of problem solving and trying to find the competitive edge. And I had the opportunity to intern with the Philadelphia Phillies actually the summer after my senior year of high school. I'll kind of think of everything as almost like preparation for this year and this thesis. And I think looking back, 5 or 10 years from now, this is definitely what I'm going to remember the most. And it was an opportunity not just to do work on my own and work on what I wanted to work on, but also I had the opportunity to meet once a week with a professor one-on-one for an entire year basically, and really get to know, form a very strong relationship with someone who I had never met until September of this year. So that's a great, that's why I come to Amherst.